In the Dynasty Agent Resource Center, I have something here called a financial calculator for properties. So when I just type in financial, I have this Excel sheet that's saved for everybody, which looks like this. And I use this for my analysis of investment properties to help me with a lot of important things like cap rate, expenses, what's the gross income, what's the net operating income, how much vacancy factor shall we use. These are all very sophisticated tools and terms that investors use to help them analyze what is the value of a property, income property, and what is its cash flow rate, et cetera. Okay, you could factor in financing, you can factor in different expenses in here and plug them in, and it's really cool. I'm going to use this and show you how I use this when I price an income property. So first things first, what do? I got a new listing. I have it signed right now. I just got it signed today. And so I wanted to share with you my thought processes when I had to analyze a property. The first thing I do is I go into the realist tax. Do you guys see me in the MLS right now? Or do you guys still see the financial model?
We see you in the MLS.
Okay, great. So the address here is 419 North Nicholson in Monterey Park. You guys see me filling in the address, and I'm going to be pulling up the property profile right now to make sure and verify the information that's given to me from the seller and what I am dealing with in terms of square footage, bedroom count, year built, all that stuff. I want to make sure I have a consistent view of the property. So I'm typing in 419 North Nicholson. Hopefully it pulls up. And this is the property. So you guys see here, it says MLS square feet, 1407, 5,900 lot, okay? This was inputted back in 2012 by some other agent, and it was a lease. This is not accurate information. Can you guys see that? The owner's name is a trust, John and Shirley Chang. Their tax address, it has the location, which shows in here. This is important to look at for rental properties. What is its potential? You look at the zoning. And I know this is Monterey Park R3, residential 3, kind of is high density. It could allow up to a 3-unit building, triplex. Okay, but you got to check the city zoning for specific rules. But it is in the zoning area of R3, so it's somewhat high density. And you look at here, you can verify what is the APN number. That's very important. The legal description, the tax year. And so I can see this is being assessed at 2019 for roughly $5,800 annually. The total tax right here, the assessment value is higher. They get a reduction because they used it as a primary residence. Their tax is $4,150 annually. This is a very low tax rate. It's a good income property. And any special assessments, which the city or county is knowledgeable about. Then what's most important here is the characteristics of this property. This is, in certain instances, you're going to see different things when you look at income properties. This is labeled as a single family residence, but it is legalized as a duplex. Okay, so they have the permits and things that they did, because back in 2005, you can see over here, it was constructed and they did have the plans, and they built a guest house as well for as a legal unit. Okay, so this is only reflecting 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. So right now, it's not showing or reflecting the guest house portion. That's why I was talking to you about confirming the what the owner tells me, what I see there versus what I see recorded. There's always, sometimes you're going to find discrepancies, and I need to clarify. As a listing agent, my job is to clarify some information. I ask the owners for floor plans. I ask them for the permits and the approvals, which I have. And so therefore I can legally describe this as a duplex, non-conforming. and I'll explain to you what it is. So the second thing I do is I do a little bit of homework, right? I have the information in front of me, then I go take a look at the property. So I'm gonna pull up my Google Photos, and so I can show you what do I see, and is that consistent with what's told to me. So yesterday I did a little homework, and I drove by the property, and I happened to also go ahead and meet the owners and the tenants at the same time, so that I could get to build a good relationship with everybody and see the condition, see if I have any red flags. Okay, and there's a lot of red flags when you're dealing with rental property because it makes it much tougher than a vacant home when I had to sell it, set appointments, give notices, and it makes our job much tougher when you sell rental property that is occupied, which you should do your best to explain to your owners that it's not as easy as a regular vacant home, and that's why you need to charge a higher commission rate. So you got to take these into factors, not always just about the rate, it's about the amount of work involved that you're going to have to do. So here's the front picture. Looks like it's well maintained. It's got a nice stucco exterior. It's got a nice tiled roof. It has not too much cracking. It looks newer. It is built in 2005, so it's not that old of a building. And I can notice a couple of things. The windows have been done, so it looks like a dual pane windows. I go to the next photo. I have 2 mailboxes over there. I got the grass. I do see automatic sprinklers. If you look right here, there's a little sprinkler box. It's fully fenced. Another angle of the view. Something else that I notice is that there is multi-family dwellings on the left and the right, to the north and to the south, which is to me a negative factor so this is the city's designated area for high density. When you look over here, I have a side view. There's a gate. There's some nice lighting on the side. Looks well kept, doesn't it? Here's a side profile view of the property, and there is a concrete barrier wall, block wall, and there is a 2-car parking in here. You can see a rear entry. Overall, looks like in pretty good shape. There is a guest house right here. That's roughly, I think, 250 square feet. The owner tells me there is a kitchen installed. It has its own gas line. It has its own gas meter, and it is legalized with a separate address. So that's the good stuff. It's legalized, and I have the address. I have all that records. Then I look at the rest of the property. Here's some more side exterior photos. Block wall. There is a larger lot. However, there's heavy landscaping, heavy trees that are happening in the rear. This is your property line boundaries. And the rest of this over here is a shared easement driveway with a multi-family apartment building on the side. You guys with me? You guys see these photos, right?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So there is a roll-up automatic garage on the side, which allows for private parking. Very nice. And that is pretty much the rest of the photos I want to show. It has 2 air conditioning units, one over here, one over here. So that's a nice feature for the 2 units. And then they have some parking. This is a side picture of the property. This is where the trash is, and all the meters are here as well. So I wanted to make sure they got tankless water heaters, 2 tankless water heaters to be specific. And they do have gas installed. This is the laundry area. This belongs to the tenant. So I asked and clarified, is this owner property or the tenant, and the tenant purchased their own laundry. It's got 2 electrical meters, and then they have a sub meter for the guest house to separate and identify the electrical usage of the guest house. That's 250 square feet. 2-car parking and entrance from the rear, side view. And I also took the liberty to take interior photos of the interior, which I'm going to decide whether or not I'm going to use it in the MLS or not. So this has, and I talked to the owner, what kind of materials is used. They used all the same cabinetry and countertops in all of the units. So they're all using this kind of cherry type of color. I don't know if this is, it looks like a little maple or cherry wood cabinets and granite countertops. Lots of storage or counter space. There is a pantry as well. The flooring is a laminate flooring with good shape. It's in good condition. I walked through everywhere, not too many scuff marks and whatnot. Interior looks kind of neat, not too messy. So I wanted to take some photos of the interior. It's got a nice long hallway. It's got, it seems to be well maintained by the tenants, and recessed lighting. It's got a thermostat for this AC, and I took a picture of the bathrooms. Same counters and same granite countertops. Bathroom is standard bathroom for tenant grade. I like the light fixtures. I do like the size of the one of the bedrooms. It's pretty spacious. You can see here. And you even have a solar tube, which is a really cool feature installed. So the owner took some nice thought into making sure this unit was built for comfortableness and whatnot. So it's nice. It's the floor plan, everything is well arranged. And so these are the interior photos as of yesterday when I took these property photos. Here's the front entrance. And that's just my baby. Okay, so now we know what we're dealing with. Here's what we got to do and talk about when I pull up the profile and everything like that. So when I look at the property, I need to clarify a couple of things. This is going to be the collaboration part. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions. What is the most important thing about a rental property? What are the things that we need to know and understand? Please tell me, anyone. Share with me your thoughts.
Cash flow.
Cash flow, exactly. I was looking for that. So the cash flow is very important because obviously an income property, this is typically for investors. They want to know what is the rental rates, correct? They want to know the circumstances and the situation. What are we dealing with? Who pays for what? And cash flow is king. People often look at, oh, it's about the zoning. Oh, it's about the location. Oh, it's about the price that you acquire the property for. Yes, those are all factors and important for analyzing the property. But first and foremost, I can care less where the location is. If it's giving me a great rental rate that I can count on, I don't care where the property is. That's why you see people that are investing back in the day, they were investing in Texas, they were investing in Denver, they were investing in various areas that had very low monthly expenses. They can acquire something for maybe $300,000 or $200,000 like Detroit, and they would have strong cash flow because the rental rate was somewhat really high. So in certain regional areas, you can find good investments and get positive cash flow. In this instance, there is definitely strong positive cash flow, and it's probably due to how the owner set up the building. Here we're dealing with Monterey Park, and you can see from the photos that there's no more potential to add square footage to this lot. It's maximized pretty nicely, so there's no more development potential, but there is maybe potential to add income. Who could tell me from the setup of this, how can you add income to this property or increase its monthly income? What's some things that you could factor and consider? Nothing?
Kitchen remodel.
The what? Thank you, Peter.
Kitchen remodel.
Okay, you could remodel the interior to higher finish, which is higher materials. You could change out those granite counters and put in like quartz or some marble, or put marble flooring, and yes, definitely upgrade the interior, and then you can increase this monthly rental rate. So those are factors. Yes, that's one factor you can consider in increasing its value, is increasing the income by improving the interior. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate your collaboration. And I want you guys to collaborate with me and respond, because this is for all of our learning. And the better questions and you ask, when I ask you to think, you will get a lot more value back when you make this very collaborative. Other factors to consider to increase its income. What I can tell you right now, another way is to offset the expenses. So if I transfer the expenses to the tenants, I can therefore increase my monthly income. So I asked the owner, what are the expenses that you're paying on an annual basis? What's regular, non-regular incurred expenses? And obviously the owner's paying property tax. That's normal, okay? The owner's paying for property insurance, okay? That's normal. And the owner is paying for what's called the gardener, and that's an $80 per month expense, okay? So perhaps I can increase my value simply by making the tenants pay for the gardening. In this case, it's only $80. The owner takes care of the payment and they're happy with that. But there's other ways. I'm just letting you think about how we can increase expenses. Some of them is usually utilities. Sometimes owners pay for some or partial utilities. In this instance, the owner has given all of the utility expenses to the tenants, and they share in those expenses per person. And I'll explain to you what I mean. The other way you can increase the income, there's one outside the box way to do it, and that's to charge for certain aspects of the property. So not many landlords or owners consider this, but you could charge, for example, you could put up a laundry machine of your own and charge, for example, laundry coin operated income. Okay, if you have a multi-family building, it may make sense to register a coin operated laundry and you collect that income. They have management companies that will partner with you, and you can install this, and they do all the management, collection, and financial separation and manage it for you, and including repairs. Another second outside the box way is you could charge for parking. In this area of Monterey Park, parking is a premium. If you're near a college or a university like USC or UCLA or West LA downtown, parking is a premium. So you can consider charging for your parking and not necessarily including it in your rent. An extra fee is paid for monthly parking. Okay. Third way you can charge is for storage. If you have a tenant that wants to store belongings or use a specific closet or a section of the property, like you have a shed, you could technically charge for that as well. That will increase your monthly income and set whatever rate you want to charge. Okay. So I want you to factor this. If you're thinking like a true investor, you're thinking like a sophisticated landlord, think about all the possibilities you can control your expenses and hopefully increase your income by these small factors, or obviously just go ahead and raise your rents regularly. That's a great way to make sure that you're fighting against inflation. Okay, so any questions up to this point? Anybody? I got a lot of you on the call, so if you have any questions, feel free to stop me, interrupt me, and ask me questions. Now, when I get into the property, I wanted to understand a little bit of background about the property. So the first thing I'm going to ask is I put together a list of questions that I asked the landlord, and so here is the details of what I asked the landlord. I got to pull up my email. So if you see my zip logics, I wrote a little message right here from Hi, John and Shirley, who are the owners. Here's the completed paperwork at your requested rate. I have the asking price to be $985,000 and the rental rate at $2,400 per month. Let's see which way you want to go. I will need a few questions. I need the address for each unit. I need the number of beds and baths, number of water meters, number of gas meters, number of electric meters. Can you provide me your expenses? Other periodic expenses like termite, pest control, copy of your lease agreements, any notices or complaints received from the tenant, anything broken, non-operational, not working that I should be aware of, any special or specific requests, or any special instructions you wish to give me. May I install a Cowabanka yard sign at the front? Can I have the contact info of the tenant so I can build a good relationship? Can I have a copy of your exact trust name showing me who are the authorized signers on behalf of the trust? Any questions for me? Okay, so those are some of the questions that I asked them. And that was to help me understand the situation and I can do a better analysis of the property. The first thing I do when I take this listing is I analyze and I give them a price. So prior to those questions I told you, I had to do an analysis of the property. So what I do is I go to the MLS and I search residential income detail. Can you guys see me on the MLS right now? Yes? Man, you guys need to be more collaborative.
Yep.
Okay, I'm checking certain boxes here. I'm checking what am I gonna search for so I can use this in my CMA, my broker analysis. What am I competing against? What has sold nearby? These are the questions that I'm asking for, but I'm not doing it for a single family. I'm doing this for a duplex, triplex. I want to see what is the comps showing me for units. So I'm going to go ahead and put duplex, triplex, and quadplex as my search criteria. Obviously, I want to look in Monterey Park. And I know that it's 5 bedrooms, so I'm not going to put a bedroom as a search field yet. I'm going to go ahead and put in some factors that I need to understand. First off, I want to search for, I look at how many fields I have in here, and I have 1,384 matches. That's way too many, okay? So I need to narrow this down. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna look for 2 to 4 units. That's one of the fields I'm gonna do. Then I'm gonna look at let me see what my results are looking like. Okay, it's not narrowing down Monterey Park, so I need to make sure Monterey Park is filled in. And I spelled it wrong. So now it's in. Now that brings me to 4 matches. You guys see that? So if I have 4 matches, these are all the comps I have. Not much, right? So what I do is I might want to include some expireds and canceleds. But let me take a look at the expireds and see how that changes anything. I'll take a look at cancels and see if that changes anything. And then I go to the map area. For a little train of thought, this is a great practice for us to understand how am I going to price this property. I want to know these 4 comps, where are they located? And they are not too far from my property. If I want to know where my property is, I type in the address, I search it, and it's right here, okay? So if I do a little Google Maps search or if I dig into the property, you can see an overview. This is the guest house, this is the main structure, this is the garage, and the easement alley. You can see there is a multifamily building here and here, many multifamilies around the area. as I zoom out, I can see and place emphasis towards specific properties. So when I zoom out a little bit, this property is 1.15 million. This property is 1.225 sold. This one's 850,000 sold. This one's 750 active. And when I take a snapshot on the actives and solds, which ones are most important for me as a listing agent pricing my home? Actives or solds? I'm going to tell you it's the sold.
Sold.
Thank you, Clinton. The sold properties is true. It's verified data through the MLS. It is what the market has spoken to them and what the market is giving the owners in terms of sales price for these duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes. I look at the gross scheduled income. I look at the days on market, the years of built, and the lot size, blah, 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 blah. I could also see, did they come out pre-COVID, during COVID, or after COVID? Because I have to understand this as an analysis. You know, sold properties before COVID, they might have been lucky and sold right before all the shutdown. So all of these are 2020 comps. And this is the only one that sold right before COVID or right during COVID, but everything else is right after the COVID period. So I know that this is more, it's already adjusting for the conservative, fearful people out there. It's already adjusted. I also noticed that these two actives have not sold yet. They're still on the market for 2 weeks. So therefore, their price may or may not be, it might be higher than what's going on, or it's very difficult property because maybe you have uncooperative tenants, or maybe you have tenants that are not paying rent. So when I think about income properties in today, post-COVID, I want to ask the owner, are the tenants still paying your rent? Are they current? Have you got any notices of non-payment? In my listing that I have, everyone's still paying their rent, which is excellent for me and makes my job easier. But you need to ask these questions, okay? Now, when I get into the analysis, I told you I want to put higher weight on these solds. So I'll look at the quadplex first, because that was the higher one. I want to understand this a little bit more. This one was not too far away. Price per unit, 1.225. I don't care too much about what it's sold for. What I want to know is I want to understand what is the income and expenses and what do I anticipate for a value. So I'll read the description. This is a quadplex, under market rents, upside potential if you increase the rents. Okay, they tell you there's a 2-bed, 1-bath, a 4-bed, 2-bath, and a 2-bed, 1-bath, blah, 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 blah. And in here, I like to take a look at the photos really quick to see what it looks like in comparison. And this looks like an older structure. It's got a driveway, all single story, 4-car individual garages. They don't even have AC. These are window air conditioning units. Those might be single pane windows. The roof is a shingles, which is a inferior roof compared to my tiled roof that I'm dealing with. The driveway is cracked, probably needs to be repaired in about 5 years. You have people that's parking on the driveway. I don't know if the owner's managing it well or not. Overall, I don't think it's as great of an attractive building compared to what I have. Okay? Do you agree or not?
Yes.
Now, when I look at it, the most important thing I told you is the income. Their scheduled income is 58,200. Okay? They give you the actual rents right here, 1950, 1100, and 2 of the units are earning 1750. total for the year, when you times that by 12, you get to your factor of about 58,200 when you add this all up. Data does, I can already tell you, this doesn't add up correctly. Wait, hold on, let me see here. This agent didn't add this correctly. This is terrible math, because if you see and add all of this total rent together, it is not adding up to 78,000. They put in here 58,000. So whoever this agent is not putting out accurate results. It looks like a smaller company, and I don't think they're very that experienced. Let me do my analysis on the rents real quick. If I add the gross scheduled rents, it is, I don't know if you can see here, but it's 78,600. So off the bat, their income is wrong. And so they're not doing a good job. But I look at their expenses and I take it for face value. And this is where you as a agent can really add a lot of value, is analyzing what are their expenses. So annually, they pay $25,000. This is what they are declaring to the public. They pay taxes, property taxes. They pay $700 in trash, $600 for their gardener. They have $1,100 for their property insurance, and they also pay $5,300 in water sewer fees. Altogether, that should add up to $25,000 for the operating expenses. And the question you always got to ask is, are they using their own property tax, or are they using the new buyer's property tax rate? This new tax should be the new buyer's property tax rate. So I want to understand this further. So what I do is I want to understand the cap rate. I want to understand and make some projections. So analyzing this property, let's go ahead and take a look at the income versus expenses and analyze this value. Do you guys prefer I do it with my calculation of rents or their calculation of rents?
Can we do yours?
Sure. So my calculation is scheduled at 78,600. You guys can go on your calculators, add all the actual rents. This one's 1,750 times 2, times it by 12 months. That should be your gross scheduled income. So when I do that, it is 78,600. Okay. Then I subtract the expenses. So I'm going to subtract 15,625 for the property tax, subtract 700 for trash. I'm on my calculator. Hold on. 600 for trash. A gardener, I'm sorry. 700 for the trash. 1,100 for property insurance, and 5,300 for the water usage. That gives me a net operating income of 55,275. Okay. And now I can do some analysis. There is an easier way to do this too. I'm going to pull up my handy dandy financial sheet now. This is where this is very relevant and helpful. It's under my downloads folder. Okay. Do you guys see my financial calculator on the screen? Yes?
No.
I hope so. No?
No.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I will pull it up because I'm not sure what you guys are seeing all the time. Now do you see it? I'm going to pull it up. You guys see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. First thing to do, subtract out all of the expenses, and we're going to put in the properties that I'm comparing it to, putting information. So right now I'm just going to put a 0 to all these expenses, and areas that are in yellow is for me to input, and the areas that are in green is what it will calculate for you. So you can see in here that I'm going to empty out all of these information fields and put in my analysis. So I need to find out, obviously, for this one, it's sold for 1.225. So I'm going to put in 1.225 million. Then I'm going to type in the number of units. Altogether, it was 4 units, and the income is 1950, 1100, 1750. 1900, 1100, 1750. There's 2 of them that are like that. So you're going to see in here, you're now going to see that the gross potential scheduled income is 78,000. That is, I usually just put in a 4% vacancy rate because it's very easy to rent things out in certain areas. But if you are in a high vacancy area, maybe like Palm Springs or Inland Empire or Riverside County, if you have a high vacancy area, you might increase this to 4 to 8% maybe or something like that. But this is just for a conservative analysis, and I'm not going to explain to you what a vacancy factor is. You can Google that. Then I look at the expenses. This is where I get, assuming there's 0 expenses, the net operating income is $74,000. Cap rate 6%, but obviously we know there are expenses. In this instance, they put down property tax for a new buyer, and I'm going to copy all their expenses. It'll help me analyze this property much better. So I look at trash, $700, taxes, $15,625. Trash, I'm just going to label this as trash, $700 right here. The insurance was $1,100. The gardener is $600 and water is $5,300. Gardener, do you guys see my expenses now calculated to be $23,325? And you subtract that from the income, that gives me an NOI, net operating income, of $51,555. Make sense? That is showing me a 4.2% capitalization rate. A buyer was willing to pay 1.225 for a 4.2 cap here in Monterey Park. Yes or no? You guys understand everything that I'm doing? Because this is very complex stuff, but I'm teaching you the thought processes and everything. Does this make sense for everybody? The question marks that I'm going to tell you about that you don't always consider is whether or not there's a management fee. Sometimes a owner will self-manage, or they're going to pay something like 6% to a property manager that's deducted as an expense off the monthly income. In this instance, it's no management fee, and in my instance, there's no management fee as well. Sometimes you might hire an accountant or you might have an attorney draft you paperwork. I don't include those expenses because that's not an annual expense. There might be repairs that they declaring 0 repairs and 0 supplies that are needed. But we all know every property annually needs to have some repairs or expenses. There might be a leak here and there. There might be replacement of batteries for various smoke detectors. You might have to fix a toilet or blah, blah, blah. Tree trimming is another expense that's like a palm trees. They got to do that every 2 years or so. Okay, so anyway, I have a comp here at a 4.2% capitalization rate. This is what people are willing to pay for this type of potential property. And hopefully, if you increase the income, this will become a much better, attractive property. Okay? I've analyzed this property very well, and I'm using this as a comp. Then I go into my MLS, and I look at the next property. The next sold property is Avondale Avenue, Monterey Park, 3 units. This one sold for $850,000. Three of these units are all, 2 of them are vacant. 1 of them is earning $1,000. I look at the instructions from the agent. 2 of them are vacant. Blah, 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 blah. They don't write a lot of this stuff. So this is where I got to put in and use their rental pro forma as my analysis. They put $0 for expenses. So I'm going to have to use my experience to fill in the blanks. So do you guys see the management? I mean, do you see the financial calculator again? I'm going to zero everything out. Okay, so the analysis is 1,500, 1,400, 1,400 for rent. So I'll put 1,500, 1,400, 1,400 for this rent. This property sold for $850,000. Are you with me? So when I look at the property insurance, I would assume a 3-unit building will probably have the same insurance, roughly at $1,100. Let's say trash, they don't give me any expenses, so I'm going to use another trash of $600. I'm going to use property tax. If it's at $850,000 and I times that by 1.15, which is the estimated property tax rate, the tax is going to be roughly $12,750. I'm going to assume water is going to be paid, shared. So let's say the water in this case might be $3,000 expense, and maintenance. Let's just say they annually have $600 in maintenance. I'll keep the rest the same. This is giving me a 3.7% cap rate. This property at $850,000 is giving me a net operating income of $31,486. If you are a sophisticated broker agent, you can know this, the formula. Who could tell me the formula of a cap rate? Anybody know? Write this down. The cap rate equals the net operating income divided by the sales price. Okay. The cool thing about that, if you do a little bit of inverse math, that means that the sales price is equal to the net operating income divided by the cap rate for the area. I'm establishing that the area is roughly about a 3.7 to a 4.2% cap rate. For our purposes, let's just go ahead and use 4% as our cap rate for the area. Does anyone have any questions on how I made this math? Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you know what cap rate means. Cap rate equals the NOI, net operating income, divided by the sales price. Now, I've demonstrated that this property has a lower cap rate. Someone paid $850 when they're asking 900 and something. So they got it under value. It's a low cap rate. They don't know. They're gonna have to plug in and find out their own rents. But for face value, this is showing only cash flow of $31,000 for an $850,000 investment. This is the time where now I'm going to do my analysis for my income property. And I am going to go ahead and plug in the numbers that are given to me, which I know are factual and accurate. This is going to be a sales price. I'm putting at $985,000 is my asking price. My monthly rents for these 3 units, I got to get my notes. Okay. The guest house was 600. One of them was 1,700. And another one was 1,850. Okay. The expenses. All right, my notes are all over the place. That's why. Okay, the expenses. The property tax of the area. Let me zero everything out. They pay $980 for the insurance. Property tax is, and this is going to be for a new buyer. I'm going to calculate the property tax. $14,775. And they pay gardener of $80 a month. No, I'm sorry, $60 a month. It's $720. Oh, no. Okay, their gardener is, I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes over. Their property tax, their insurance was $867. The gardener was $30 a month. I think that's low, so I'm going to increase it and just say it's $450. These are all the expenses the owners pay because all the utilities is paid by the tenants. Okay. So when you look at all of this, it really comes down to property tax and whatnot. Because right now, my net operating income is $31,000. and the owner's technical property tax is very low. You can see how this property was purchased a long time ago. You can see how simply, if I just change what the owner pays as an owner in investment, they pay $41.50 in property tax. And that makes this a 4.3% cap rate, okay? But because we know a buyer is gonna increase their property tax rate, it's significantly different. A buyer is gonna have roughly, it's gonna be a $12,000 property tax. Okay, so that's this analysis of this property. If I look at this income, I look at this potential, mine's gonna be priced around a 3.5% cap rate for a new buyer, but it's something that is for us to analyze. We're gonna get net 34,000. Okay, so now I go back into my MLS. You guys remember the formula for cap rate and net operating income? Okay, so I'm gonna just, the sales price of 985,000, you divide it by the net operating income of 34,491, and you divide that by the cap rate of the area. So I could use I divide it by 0.35, okay? And that gives me a price of 985,000, which is my asking price. If I wanted to use a higher cap rate at 4%, that'll bring me to around $862,000 sales price. I could do the same thing for, and I'm going to screen share my MLS again. So I could do the same thing for all of these listings if I really wanted to spend the time and compare. But I'm not going to spend too much time on the actives because I feel that I already did 2 solds, which is more relevant and accurate with better data. So that is how I price a property based on its investment and its income. The other approach that we would use is to use comps. The comparison approach is what we always do for a residential single family house or a condo townhouse. And because of my comps, these are the comps that I'm using, I can give you a comparison approach. These 2 solds are off the board, okay? And so my only competition, because I did only search for duplexes, quadplex, triplex in Monterey Park. The only competition in Monterey Park against my listing is these 2 listings here, okay? These 2 actives are important for me to see, is my investment a better property than them? So I would comp them based on its on the potential of the property, on its income, but looking at it, my building is one thing that stands out against my building versus theirs is I have a 2005 built structure. So the deferred maintenance on this one is probably very high. It's got a lot of deferred roof or maintenance or landscaping and foundation issues that might increase its future maintenance expenses, okay? This one has income of $44,000 on rents. The actual rents are $1,980 and $1,733. Here's the problem I have with this. Again, this agent, when you look at the expenses, they look at, oh, the operating expenses is only $7,150. Okay, They say they only pay for insurance of $1,100 and taxes of $6,050. So it looks like on their face value, they only have $7,150 of expenses. They don't pay any trash, no water, no business license fee, no gas, electric, or gardener or management fee. Okay? Assuming that's true, there's $7,150 expenses. How can their net operating income be $41,000? They only label about $2,600 worth of expenses. Okay, if I want to verify this, I could take a quick look right now, and I want to verify what is their property tax. So I pull up their expenses, I look at their tax year, and in 2009, their tax is $7,133. Okay, I'm not going to report agents or whatnot, but what I'm going to tell you is if you're a strong agent, off the bat, which is what I suspected, they're not telling you the truth. Their tax rate is $7,100, and they're telling you that their net is $41,000. That's impossible. It should be a minimum $7,000 reduced plus their property insurance. I hope you understand what I'm talking about, because agents don't always. There's not a lot of good rental or income property agents. A lot of these are inaccurate. So you need to ask the right questions, clarify, or ask for documentation when you are dealing with a listing agent where they have inconsistent information. And in this case, it's very easy to see there's inconsistent information. Okay, so I can tell you my property is going to stack up much better because agents are going to look at this and they're not going to be able to understand what kind of income they're getting. If I want to really take in factor their gross scheduled income of $45,550, subtract roughly $9,500 of expenses, which is my quick analysis. Their gross income, their net income will be $35,050. And if it's $35,050, I divide that by the cap rate of the area of 0.04. That's telling me it potentially could be sold for over $800,000. Okay, but no one's buying it, so something's fishy. Okay, I could do the same thing with the next property. The next property, no one's buying this because it looks like it looks really, really deferred, and no maintenance has been going on. A lot of undue repair. This property looks very comparative to mine. It's got 2 units, but it looks newer. It looks well maintained, and I can take a look at this duplex, and based on its income, they do put, insurance and tax as the expenses. I could do the math on all this stuff and go through the same exercise, but assuming their net operating income is true at $45,600, divide that by their cap rate of the area of 0.04, this could be worth $1.14 million, and that's how this agent priced it at 1.15. Okay, so this agent kind of did their math. This agent probably knows what they're doing. Okay, so any questions so far? I've been doing a lot of talking. I hope you understand, but this exercise that we're going through really helps you understand the rental property, how to analyze it. If I want to take a look at the condition inside, but this is something that I talked about with the owner, that this is one of the comps I used. It's got a gated private entry. It does not have an easement, so this one is a little bit nicer. It's got 2 garage parking, and it's to me it's also it's a little bit nicer interior in appearance. It's a little bit.
How wide is the property?
How old is this?
How wide is it?
The property, the
It's a
lot.
1929 built. And if you want to look at the width and the length of this property, I go down to here under characteristics and let's see here. If it doesn't tell you up front, then the science or the best thing you can do when you do this is to pull up the plat map. So I don't see it given to me. So I just go ahead. I mean, there's all this stuff here. I pull up the plat map and I hope you can see when I pull it up.
I'm
Okay, my
looking
computer's
for it
making-
as well.
So I go to the assessor's map right here. You guys can see the assessor's map. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this up. I have to download this. Then I gotta open it. Do you guys see the plat map in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Looks like it's 57 maybe, around 57.
okay.
Yeah.
So I again I have to go back to my screen and find the APN number, which in this case the APN number is 060. And when I look at 060, it's right
The
here.
pictures look wider than
57, and it's deep 162 feet. Okay, so this is the property in question. I have it shown to you there. I 57 by 60, go back to the MLS now. And for this property, to me, it's attractive, it's nice.
So there's a duplex, and then there's a guest house in the back of about 250 square feet. Is that
Yeah,
it?
front is 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and the rear is 4-bedroom, 2 bath, 1582 square feet. The rear is larger, correct. R3 zoning, separate meters. It's a nice property, but they're asking 185 for a net of $45,000, whereas I'm asking for 985 for a net of 35,000 roughly.
Oh, right. This is a different one.
Okay, so it's you pay more, but you're gonna have it's all about rents. But what I like to do is just do the comparison approach. So when I take a look at this property, I compare it. I show the owner they have a larger lot, they don't have an easement, they have more income. Our price has to be under $1 million. I told the owner, and obviously the owner was hoping for $1 million, and I had to convince them to come down. 985 is definitely, to me, I believe I've convinced the owner that likely it might get lower than 985, and they're willing to hear all offers, but they're putting an initial asking at 985. Okay.
So when you have a seller who owns a property that just has a single family house, but they're doing the same thing, they're basically renting it per bedroom, so they're getting multiple incomes from different tenants. Would you be able to market that property the same way that you're talking about right now as an income property?
You said one single family structure, but like let's say 4 or 5 tenants that are paying rent.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could still. I mean, it's basically gonna be used as the new owner, even though it's a single family. It's gonna be used as a rental property. They're not gonna occupy with 4 other tenants, and it's gonna be hard to vacate 4 tenants at the same time. So yes, I would use this analysis and use 2 approaches. Again, the single family approach, which is using the standard comps of actives and solds in the area. Then I'm going to use the income approach to see what investors will pay for this. Okay. And then I merge the 2. If this one tells me it's worth 700,000 based on its single family neighbors and the neighborhood, it's worth 750, but the income of this one is telling me it's worth 825,000, I might put the value right in the middle. And that tells me what the asking price should be. And, you know, investor will get a good return because you already comped out for the area, the cap rate for the area. And a single family buyer is not going to buy this anyways. So this really is going to go to the investor. So this
you
helps me
can,
blend.
so like everything that you just showed right now on MLS with all the rental, with all the rents broken down, you can do that the same way with a single family. Like it has that option to do it for single family listing or no?
Yeah, so when I bring up the financial calculator, it's kind of like rooms for rent, right? So I would bring up, you know, four tenants, and then they have 4 rental agreements, and they have 4 different incomes. So I would put one at $500, one at $400, one at $600, and another one at $700. Then I aggregate the total rents. I aggregate the gross scheduled income. I aggregate the annual expenses that the landlord pays. And then I just find out what the cap rate is for that.
Mhm.
And that'll give me, and for the area, it'll give, I know what the cap rate should be. So I inversely use the formula. Sales price equals net operating income divided by, for example, 4%, divided by 0.04. For Monterey Park, that's the cap rate. For let's say Venice Beach or West LA, Santa Monica, you're gonna have a very different cap rate. It might be 3% or less.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Because those are all high density area, very low cap rate areas because it's already developed fully in the area. Versus Inland Empire, Riverside County, you might have a cap rate of 5% or more. Okay, there might be a lot more potential in those areas.
Mhm.
So yes, you could use this analysis for a single family. This is the Q&A portion of today's class. Any questions? I'd like to help you with your deals, your questions that you're dealing with your clients. Go ahead and bring up your screen, ask a question, and unmute yourself.
Hi, Kelvin.
Hi,
This
Jean.
is Jean. How you doing? Am I look quick? Okay. I suppose have 2 listings. Since I'm not sure, can I ask this question? Hold on, let me turn off.
Sure, you can ask a question.
I'm not
And if
sure.
the rest of you
I'm
have
not
questions,
sure.
go ahead and just write it down. I'll ask you right. I'll take it question by question. Jean, go ahead.
Yeah. I just proposed 2 listing, but one of the tenant they get COVID-19. Can you hear me? They get a COVID-19 symptom. Okay. And I just worry, like if I successfully sell the house, do we need to do any extra cleaning and any form to disclose? Like
Okay,
that?
so that's a good question. You have a rental property you're putting on the market for sale with the tenants in place, and one of the tenants told you that they have symptoms of COVID.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, are you in escrow or are you not in escrow yet?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, good. So no, you do not have to disclose symptoms because there's no confirmation yet, and honestly, you don't want to know anyways. So agents have a duty of disclosing known information. So to me, I wouldn't have any knowledge. I would try not to have knowledge unless, you know, someone gives you, unless a tenant tells you and shares with you, I got COVID, don't come into the property, then you have knowledge. So they have to get, I'm pretty sure if they have symptoms, this tenant is likely going to go get a medical check in the next week or 2. Okay, if they have symptoms are persisting. So they're going to get a negative or a positive for COVID. Okay, so my instructions to you in this case, don't let anyone into the property right now. It's too dangerous, way too dangerous. So you put a rental property up for sale. Hopefully you already have photos, or if you don't have interior photos, just show photos of the exterior and write offers subject to your buyer's interior inspection after acceptance. You can change your MLS anytime. If 10 days passes and you find out that the tenant has tested negative, now you can go ahead and allow showings by appointment only.
Yeah. But what about
Okay.
positive?
Okay, if you test positive, don't put yourself at risk. Do not go into the property. Don't touch anything. I highly recommend you. I mean, go in with a face mask or go with like a true N95 mask or whatever it is if you had to go in. But in the you got to put up the posted entry of the 2 signs. I would just not go in at all. You would, if you happen to get into an escrow this week and now the buyer wants to do their inspection, you would have to disclose the tenant has tested positive for COVID, enter at your own risk, and you would disclose it to them before going in and to take those measures.
Wow, that will be tough, huh? And so, but what about if
I have an example
understand-
of what you could do to solve this. You don't have to physically enter a building.
Yeah, I know.
They have drones. They have little cameras robots that can go into a property and walk through and inspect the home.
Yeah,
They
understand.
have little drones, the inspectors that go into the crawl space
Yeah,
and they take video recordings of the foundation.
yeah,
You
understand.
don't have to enter a building. It's going to be additional expense, but that can be done without giving yourself at risk. And to me, in this case, let the buyer take care of that expense if they don't want to, if they elect not to go in because they're scared. They can buy it without inspection. They can waive their inspection rights. They could buy a property without going in, but you've done your duty, which is disclosing.
Okay, understand. Okay, thank
Great.
you. Yeah, okay.
Any questions? Anyone else? That I think someone wrote a question in the chat. Faye asked me, due to the pandemic, many people unable are paying rent. Do you recommend an owner lease a house now? Actually, not requiring a 1-year lease, maybe just a 6-month lease or a month-to-month lease. So, because right now you can't evict tenants anyways, whether you have a contract or not. Well, there's different aspects in this question. If you want to clarify, Faye, you could unmute yourself. But to me, this question becomes, I have a rental property. If I'm a landlord, I have a rental property for income. I don't want to keep it vacant. It needs to give me income or else I should sell it. Okay. So yes, I do think you want income property to be generating income. So go ahead and lease it out for your rental rate and generate that income so that you have cash flow to pay off your mortgage. But if you have intentions to sell the property, absolutely no, I would not rent it out, because when you have the occupied property, it has a lot of challenges to sell out the property. And then I'm going to tell the owner, what are your intentions? You want to sell it in the next 3 to 6 months? Okay, why wait? Let's just go ahead and put it in the market now. In the summer months, it's the peak buying period. This is where we're going to maximize our extract the most highest price right now, because I anticipate in 6 months and in 2021 there will be a flood of inventory and prices will not be as strong as it is right now, where there's a lack of inventory. If you don't know the language to use, refer to last week's sales meeting. I already shared with you how to convince a seller to sell today. So I had that recorded. I shared it with you. It's on my YouTube channel. You can watch the language when I gave broker tips and broker guidance on the economy. And I gave 15 bullet points on how to convince a buyer and a seller. Okay, it's all recorded. So does that answer your question, Faye? I hope it does. Any other questions I can answer for you before we conclude today's training? We got a couple of new agents that I wanted to welcome and thanks for being on here. Say hello to Sharmona Clark and Clinton, who just joined us yesterday. I'll be seeing Clinton later on, but be happy to answer all of your questions on a one-on-one basis. If you have specific needs, always feel free to call or text me for support. And I'll see you tomorrow for our sales meeting at 10 a.m. as well as next week, Tuesday, 2 p.m. I try my best to put great content in front of you and answer and be as a broker should be, making sure you're getting the great knowledge and understanding how to do this business much better. I hope you understand the analysis. If you want to remind yourself about what we covered today, you can always go back to the recording. I will post it in my YouTube channel in a couple of days. It takes me a couple of days because I have to edit a few things. Okay? Thanks, you guys. I appreciate you being on here. I'll see you next week. And I love doing this. I love teaching you guys. And write down the questions you have, and we can all learn from each other when you have questions. I appreciate your responses. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
See you guys next time.